important to them to actually show the work. Is something that can actually help. It's not required. It means it's not like if I don't have this, I'm not able to find a job, but it's something that it can actually help them. So I really think it's a nice way to start.
Thank you so much. Those were amazing answers. If you had to choose 7 key items that you should include in your resume, which will be? Jennifer, I know you said like a website, but which other items would you tell someone that they need to have in their resume?
Well, something that's really important, you have your contact information, phone, email. In the case of developers, GitHub and LinkedIn. That's really important. And then you have your profile. That's something that it cannot be away. Some people say like it's not really important, but actually it's the way for the recruit people to actually read and says, I want to listen and I want to interview this person. And then I would say you have to put your education and your projects. Even it's more important than your experience, because sometimes when you change, for example, the person that goes to the bootcamp, you have like, I don't know, they were lawyers and then they become software developers. That change is really, the experience of their previous jobs is not so important, but the actually important that is the soft skills. So they are able to work in team, they are able to be a leader and something like that. So it's really important to put it in a really nice way and not just put, well, I was in charge and I have this thing on my account and then I have able to speak with clients. That's not really important for the recruiter.
Lena, I don't know what to think about that.
Yes, I completely agree with Jennifer. She made really good points. Also, that's actually a good point. I never thought of that. Maybe because I don't handle so many IT jobs, but it is important. If you have a personal website, to include it there. Most of the things she already mentioned: the name, the email, the address, job summary or job objectives, stating the job that you're applying for. Also the work experience, and it's very important to include job titles and dates in the tasks performed. Some people skip dates, and I think that's very important because, let's say as a recruiter, when you're presenting it to a client, then the person's going to go back and forth like, okay, but when did he leave? Why did he leave? Why so much? So, I mean, it's a recruiter's job to find that information before presenting it to the client, but it's easier if they just write it.
Bridget, what do you think?
They basically took the words right out of my mouth, especially what Jennifer said, because she literally said exactly what I was thinking. I always push for the students or any candidate really to really focus on having a good profile, because it really makes a difference. It's kind of funny because in tech, they really look for that. They want candidates that have that have resumes that like have personalities to them, basically. So it's kind of weird because when I used to work in oil, it wasn't as like a big deal. In oil, they're kind of robotic and it's more what's the word? It's a lot more professional. No, that's not the word. It'll come to me in a second. But anyways, they're a little bit more cutthroat, so it's not as easy to be like personable in a resume when it comes to like that field, for example. And that's why I think it's great, because in tech you really get to show who you are. So I really like that. Oh, it's really corporate. That's the word. They're really corporate, so that's why they don't really allow you to be like personable. And so I really like that in tech you can kind of really push people to have a personality, have like their own story. So yeah, that's a big thing that I always push them to do. And then I know Jennifer said this already, but GitHub is so important as well, and actually having like a really good LinkedIn too. But yeah, that's my opinion.
Thank you so much. Those are great answers. And what do you think a candidate should have on their resume, especially now with the pandemic? What do you think will make them stand out from the crowd? With so many people looking for jobs, a resume needs to be really special to stand out. What do you think should be key, Lena?
Okay, so I think they should use their spare time to learn a new skill. Many businesses and universities are now offering free programs or qualification courses throughout the lockdown period. So I think it's a good opportunity for them to get certified in something and make connections on LinkedIn so that the right person can want to see their resume.
Amazing. Bridget, what do you think about this? Because I know you've been working a lot during the pandemic, so I don't know what you have told the students to do.
Well, honestly, what I think has really been making them stand out are the students that have like, not only like put out marketable resumes, so they've made their resumes in a way that it like really makes them pop out. But I also think a lot of them got their jobs, especially during the pandemic, because they kind of followed up with each manager. So it's not necessarily so much as to what they've put on their resume as it is like how enthusiastic that they were about getting the job. So I feel like a lot of students, when they go into the field, they're kind of threatened because they think like, oh, there's so much competition. There's probably like 3 or 4 coders out there that are a lot better than I am. And that's not the case. Everyone's kind of like at the same level, right? I think what I've seen with the students that have applied and like stand out is like they've actually applied to positions even though it's not like a position for them. Let's say it's an entry level position asking for 3 years, but because of the way I think they not only like went after the job in terms of like contacting the manager and everything, I think it's also because they really listed their projects like almost front and center. So it made their recruiter look at that first, and it made them like look at it and be like, oh wow, like that's a really good project. So I think that also helped. But I think in the pandemic, it's been a little bit different because I also think a lot of them have been enthusiastic. And I think the more like not only they can show like how well they do in coding on their resume itself, right, like in their projects and everything, but I also think the way that they've been able to get work, honestly, is because they've been actually enthusiastic about it, and they've really been trying to get at it. And then some students, for example, like from what I've seen, it's literally just been all of their skills, like all of their projects that have been shown off on there. But that's just from what I've been seeing when I've been working with students and candidates in the field, ultimately, like the end result, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, that's a little. Because I know that when students finish at Geeks, they have to present like a project, and I think that's good for their resume because they have like something that they can present the hiring managers like,
right,
this is what I did, this is how it works, and
right. And so to follow up on that, and sorry to make it such a long answer, but like actually most of them recently, some of the partners have like viewed their work during the graduation, and that's how some of them have been getting job offers. So that's another way that I've seen it. Because people are looking at alternative ways to find talent. They're no longer just sitting there looking for work, right? Because like now people have more time at home to like look at those things. So that's kind of my answer. Sorry to make it so long, but that's just kind of what I've seen in the field since I've been working.
Okay, thank you so much, Jennifer. What do you think? I know Chile right now with the pandemic. I don't know if they're doing better right now, but I know it was tough.
Yeah, we're trying, but yeah, well, it's going to be hard, but we're trying to get better. Actually, well, I think there are 2 main points for this answer, which the first one is going to be honesty, all right? One of the main things that we tell to the students, the resume has to be honest, because one of the main problems that they can actually see in the process is that they put the perfect resume, and you have you read that and you say this is the best candidate, and then when you go to the interview you have an expectation, and then when they start talking you see the reaction of the person and say this is not the person I hope to be. So that's something that actually is going to make a filter really, really hard for you. So I say you have to be honest with the information that you're actually going to put, it's not like you're not able to put it in a really nice way, but you have to be able to back up that information. And the other thing I think is the attitude. It's really, really important to be able to pursue your goal, to be able to be focused, to be able to, it's going to be frustrating sometimes. You're going to apply and someone's going to say, no, I don't want to. And that's hurt. I mean, that's hurtful. I mean, you go there, you prepare yourself, and you start talking, and you even study for that, and someone says no. So it's not cool, it's not appreciated, but it's an experience. You have to learn from that. So you have to be able to continue, and you have to be able to get up and say, okay, what do I do wrong, and what are going to do better? So it's really, really important for them to start having another perspective of the situation, and be able to get up and start doing things. Also, they have to, all this dead time, they have to study and be able to do some projects and be able to do some certification. There are tons of free certification for the pandemic, so you have to be able to say, well, this is the time I have, so I'm going to do my best to improve my resume.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much. You know that sometimes in resumes you put highly skilled in computer, I don't know, whatever. What 5 words should you remove for your resume and exchange them from? For example, I've seen that if you put highly skilled in Microsoft Word, you should put, I have managed different accomplishments. Here's what I did. If you manage, if you have a team, for example, and you say, I've managed a team of 5 people, how did you succeed? What words do you think you should change in your resume in order to make that accomplishment stand out more? Bridget.
So one of the things that I always tell students to avoid is actually to speak in first person, which I know sounds odd. So in a way for them to structure their accomplishments, what I always do is I just do it in, I always try to tell them to do it in bullet points and depending on their accomplishments. So if it's a certificate or something like that, obviously that would be in a different section of the resume. But in terms of I'm highly skilled, I don't know. Anytime I've helped even write my own resume or any other student, I've just noticed that writing in first person makes it look a little odd. So usually I just tell them, instead of saying I am or I have done or I would be, because sometimes I've seen students put I would be great for this position. I would avoid putting things like that, for example, just because, first of all, it kind of makes it seem like you already think you should get the job. That's just from a recruiter's point of view, it kind of makes it seem okay, you deserve it, which is not saying that you don't, because yeah, maybe you are really good at it, but it's in a way where it's almost saying to the recruiter, okay, I've done my work, I've done my share, this is why I think I should get it, right? So in a way to structure it where you're not telling them hey, give it to me, it should be more I'll give you guys an example, highly skilled recruit, or no, I don't like to use highly skilled either. It's not my favorite choice of words because, again, it can be a little, because how can you show them that you're highly skilled, right? Do you have a certificate? Do you have something to back that up? So I don't like to use those words. My preference of words is passionate recruiter who's worked in all aspects of I don't know, this is going to sound repetitive. Passionate recruiter who's worked in all aspects of recruitment, including HR, management, payroll, helping do student workshops, something like that, right? That's kind of what you want to go with. You don't want to make it all about how good you think you are. You kind of want to show the recruiter that you are good, but word it in a way that it's not in first person. That's how I've always viewed it. Because when you say I've done this or I've done that, it's a little odd. It's just a little bit more professional to word it that way. So that's just kind of my point of view on that.
Lena, what do you think about what Bridget said?
I agree with her 100%. I wouldn't use also first person examples. You mentioned managed. I would use instead directed.
Right, yeah.
Created. Instead of created, I would use designed per se. In instead of helped, I would use coached.
That's great. I love that. See, she just did all that.
Yeah, Jennifer, what do you think about it?
Well, I love the words Alina used.
Yeah, me too.
That's the best word to do it. But I think they should avoid basically when they, like Bridget said, that sometimes they put their resume and they start speaking like, I'm the best candidate. And well, you may be, but you shouldn't be like doing that in your resume because, you know, other people can think that you are like, I don't know.
I've seen that in summaries. I've seen that in summaries. And now I have to go back to them and say, hey, you need to change that.
It's like
you guys go back to your candidates and say, hey, remove this or change this, or am I the only one?
No,
I do a lot.
Me too.
It's like I'm reading. It's like, all right, this is not going to be here. So no,
right.
No.
I had one where he was like, this is probably the best resume you'll see this whole week, and I'm like,
oh my God. I had someone say, I am the perfect person for this job. And I'm like, you can't literally tell them that you think you're perfect. They don't know that.
You have to show them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's really hard to show. You know, you go to an interview, how to show that I'm the best. And, you know, the perfect candidate is really hard. And then they start with that and say, like, that's not the way to do it. So please just erase that word. Perfect is not, just delete it. It's not perfect, so try another word. But yeah, they usually do that. I'm the perfect candidate and the person that you're looking for. How do you know that? You have to prove that. So don't put that, please.
Thank you. Okay, so you know that there's been some new software recruitment softwares, and for example, if you have to have specific keywords to appear in for a recruitment or a company, know that you could be the perfect candidate, but if you don't have the specific keywords they're looking for, you're not going to appear in their search. What advice could you give someone that's doing the resume so that they can appear to that company they want to, and how to make those keywords work with the software? Bridget.
Keywords in your resume that you think will make them stand out, right?
Yeah, because you know that right now most companies are using like the recruitment softwares that. For example,
right. Okay.
They put the position in a software and.
So that's a good question. I love that question because I actually use this mostly for LinkedIn. I haven't really thought about it for resumes because resumes, like, I don't know. For example, like I just for their LinkedIn, I really try to make them focus on their algorithms, like literally focus solely on development stuff, right? So whenever they're building their LinkedIn, which I know is different from the resume, but this is just like what I've done because I'm glad you're bringing up resume usage as well. I'm always like, when you're putting your resume too on like Indeed and like dice.com and Stack Overflow, because on Stack Overflow you can actually tag them. I'll usually tell them to either do like full stack developer, to make sure that their resume has all of their languages listed, because people will literally look up like front end developer, they'll look up like Python developer, for example. So like to have all of their skills listed on there actually really helps to boost their resume to get found. What else? Anything like any of their projects too, and their GitHub too. Like if they can actually like list what their projects were made of, that will also help them a lot. That's what I've noticed for sure. Is that once you've listed like keywords in your resume a couple of times, like I think it's like 4 or 5 times or something like that, it's more strong, and the stronger it'll come up in actually finding it in search results. But yeah, that's the kind of keywords that I try to aim them to use because it really helps with algorithm search.
Thank you. Jennifer, what do you think about this?
With the algorithm search, it's really important have to put every single language and technology that you actually use and you actually know, because you know sometimes people actually is looking for Python and they don't know what Python is. Just they have a list and say, well, Python, and then JavaScript, and then you have to put everything that you know. And in the projects, in the section of projects, if you want to put, I don't know, my project name is school.com, and then you have the brief description, and then you have to put the technologies and the language that you actually use. Because sometimes it's not about if I know it in the best way or if I know it like in a professional way, but it's about if I have been able to work with that. So if I have some knowledge. So it's really, really important, because sometimes they have like this, when you look in the algorithm search, you have a list, and then they say, I don't know, for example, 10 technologies they have to manage. And then at the end of the day, you say, well, people that actually have like 70% of that are going to interview. So it's really important to be able to put everything you know there, so the search is going to pop up your resume.
Thank you. And Lina, what do you think? Just from a perspective, not only from tech, but everything else you work on.
Okay. So I think keywords are very, very important, especially because I use the ATS tracking system, the application tracking system, to screen my candidates. So keywords are, you know, to describe skills, credentials, qualities, things that hiring managers look at in a candidate. So to me, keywords are, you know, ideal to have in your resume. Certifications, specific programs or applications. I use that all the time in all the industries that I work with. So that's very, very important from my point of view to have.
Amazing. You know that the other day I was scrolling through TikTok and I found there's like recruitment person that was given tips, and she said that in order to appear in like this algorithm, what you need to do is that copy the description of the job you want to apply to, and then put it in white and in font like 1, and hide it in your resume, so that when you put it in like in Indeed, LinkedIn, you appear to those companies that are looking for. So you have the exact description. I saw that like yesterday on TikTok. I found it funny because no one ever thinks of that.
That's smart.
I'm gonna do a last question, so then we can have questions from the audience. What is the number one mistake you can make in your resume? I think that's like the crucial one. Lina, I see you have an answer.
It's so hard to pick this one.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, there's a million.
Can you guys just pick one? I can't. I can list like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I'm like, oh man.
Okay, list all mistakes you want.
Well, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
There's so many mistakes. I think
I'll start. I already mentioned it. Email.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Putting a picture, irrelevant work experience, listing education at the top of the page, not the bottom, being and pasting job descriptions.
Well, some people do that in the United States because like they think like a degree overrides everything. I don't know why. People just think like, oh, I have an MBA, but bam, like let me put it at the top. That'll get me a job. Like that's not how it works though.
42.
Yeah, exactly. They're just like, I am a doctorate. Like hire me, and it's like, it doesn't matter if you're a doctorate. I need to know if you're actually a good employee. Do you guys?
Also, I'm pretty sure you guys can back me up on this one. A bad file name.
Oh yes! Oh my god! I get those all the time. I get those all the time. Yeah.
5. That was the top one.
For real, horrible.
Not having.
From like 2 years ago, you can tell like that person has not looked at their resume in 2 years, or like I don't know, Michelle Rodriguez. I know, or Michelle Rodriguez 2.1. Oh my God, so many crazy file name.
The worst ones that I've seen are like the ones with all different fonts. I hate that. I get so annoyed when I see that. I like almost don't even want to look at their resume when they have like their title, like their name and like a different font, and then they have like their summary and like another different font, and then they have like everything else in a completely, oh man, it's just, I really hate that. And there's no structuring, like actually structuring. Probably one of my biggest pet peeves with a mistake. And then not actually having contact information. I've seen that happen. I've seen people like not even post their phone numbers or their email, and it's like, how is anyone supposed to get to you? I had a student put the wrong phone number. I think that's even worse because I had my partners call me and be like, "Hey, we tried contacting him and it was the wrong number." And I'm just like, what? How do you put the wrong number?
You know why that happens? Because it goes back to what I just said. You know, when you receive a resume that it says there the file name 2008.
Oh, true.
That person has or updated their resume in 2 years. So because that has also happened to me, and I have to go back to them and say, hey, I noticed the file name says 2000 whatever. Are you sure this is the updated one? And they're like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, or you know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Amazing. So now we're gonna go to questions from the audience. We have the first one is, could you please give us some recommendations about how you should write correctly the job description? Use the bullet points. If you use bullet points, short description. How do you guys think?
I always do the. Yeah, it depends. I was gonna say the same thing, honestly. Because if you have a lot of job history, bullet points are the way to go, in my opinion. Like, let's say you have, you want to list like the 3 most recent jobs, but you kind of did a lot of had a lot of technical experience at each one. Then I always try to boil it down to bullet points. But again, I think it just depends on each job.
I wouldn't call it job description. I would call it job experience, because job description is basically like what the client is looking for, you know, so you can do. Okay. But I would use bullet points and short but very detailed descriptions.
Yeah, for example, if you want to put your goals or your achievements, which is really important when you change for example, if you're a lawyer and then you're going to software developer, that change, you have to use a lot of achievement and things that you actually managed to achieve in that job. So bullet points is going to be like really good view to put it. And then if you want to do it in a short text, you can do it. But then if you're going to do that, you cannot put, like, for example, manage team, and then manage one team before, and then I put, you cannot put descriptions like it's in the bullet points, but then you put in a short text, because it's not going to make sense, and then it's going to be like really, overcrowded with text.
Yep.
Amazing.
So
okay. We have another.
Sorry,
Lena.
I want to learn something. I'm reading the chat, and Mape said that the resume, you should speak about how you will be able to bring money to an organization via your skills. And yes, your resume is your selling point. Think of it as a good resume can open so many good doors and can also close so many doors, because you might have the experience, but if you have a bad resume, it will not get you anywhere. And so that's very important to have. And my best recommendation is to follow the ATS. What's the word? The ATS, the application tracking system template. There's so many online that you can follow, and yes, sometimes I see candidates put so much information that is not
necessary.
It's very relevant to the position, that when I go back to the client, they say, oh yeah, but I mean, she's She's not very. She has too much things in her resume, but not what I'm looking for. And the person might have what the client is looking for. She just doesn't have it on the resume.
Perfect. Thank you. We have another question. Could you please share some tips for fresher how to write resume to get a job? I don't know who wants to answer that one first.
Fresher?
LA, if you want to expand a little bit on what you mean for fresher.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want, like, if you just want to freshen up your resume, see what tips could be useful.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'm a fresher and I don't get a job because I don't have experience. So mostly people ask if you have experience and all, because the entry level jobs, they ask for 5 years of experience, 2 years of experience. So how can we show them that we are good in our skills and all? Because I also work on my profile as well as my resumes, but I didn't get any output from that. So can you please share some tips regarding to that?
Here you go.
I don't know if, yeah, anyone wants to answer
The
that
silence.
question?
Yeah, I was gonna say, go ahead.
Like, where's going? No, it's okay.
Okay,
I will
Jennifer.
start. Well, actually, sometimes, for example, I want to speak on behalf of the experience we have with the IT, with all the software developers. When you are a junior, when you're going to have apply to a job, the entry job level, it's hard for them because they don't have, like job experience that actually says I'm good at this or I've been working on this. So that's where projects is really, really important, because projects are the way to show all the people that you're able to do something um, without the backup of a company, right? You're able to do it, and the main purpose of the project is that I can show you what I'm able to do. So I'm able to work in team. I'm able to find jobs for myself. Maybe not remunerate, so I don't have money for them, but I'm able to do it. I have the interest of learning and being able to do this. So sometimes a project is really a good place to start to show what you're able to do. It's really hard sometimes to think about which is the best way to do it. So it's the time that you have to think outside the box. So you have to realize, all right, so how can I show someone that I'm good at this? And I don't have the job experience, all right, so which other ways I have? So maybe a project, maybe a portfolio, maybe, for example, if I'm an artist, maybe I have to do some works that can actually go there and show. It's really important to think outside the box to actually answer the question. And then lastly, you have to keep going and try one and over and over and over and over, because there is going to be a company that is going to bet on you, and that company is the one that's going to allow you to keep growing up. So it's really important to not give up.
Yes, I agree with
That
that.
was an amazing answer.
Yeah.
Also, going back to getting certified and taking advantage of what we're going through right now, that so many businesses and universities are offering free programs. I would definitely take advantage of that to get yourself certified, make courses, everything so you can build a strong resume, although you don't have the work experience, and then that way you can include that in your summary at the top of your resume. That way the client can see, okay, you can say looking for an entry level job, and that right off the bat is gonna let the client know, okay, so she doesn't have the experience, but she took the time to invest in learning about the industry, and that's gonna be appealing to the client.
Yeah, I 100% agree with what Jennifer and Lena said. It's just, trying to make yourself stand out would be like the best way to do that is exactly what they said. Honestly, those are like my exact answers would be to go back on a project and either make it stand out a little bit more, because you can do that as well, or upskill your way in some way that can actually be applied onto your resume as well. But yeah, like I have to agree with what they said, because those are great answers. It's just exactly like what I would also have said, focusing more on like projects um, and also, in my opinion, like I always tell students, if you can find something online that can certify you, and you can also add that, like an upskill of some way, like on LinkedIn, for example, they have some of those that you can use on resumes. I always try to tell people to find courses in that way that can help you upskill if possible. But yeah, those are, I think, really good answers.
Thank you. Those were amazing answers, especially for someone that's starting in a new field. So, LA, if that works for you, you know that you should put to work everything they've said. And then
Sure.
we have
That's a hard
another
question, though. That's a hard question, but we gave some good tips.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Thanks.
And then we have another question that says, if we have some gaps in our career, how should we fill out that? Courses, write tutorials, or things? Maybe freelance? What is your opinion?
I always, in my opinion, freelance is always great. If you can find different work or different projects that can fill up your resume, that's always awesome. Courses, definitely. In my opinion, I always tell people, coding and like development, if that's more what you're getting at, because if you're doing another type of work, right? In my opinion, for coders especially, because they have a lot of time right now on their hands, like they can spend a lot of time like coding online and stuff. I would try to find like anything to upskill myself. So like people always think, oh, coding is just coding, like there's nothing else you can do. That's not necessarily true. I always try to tell people to find other boot camps after 4Geeks that can continue to upskill themselves. So for example, like blockchain is a big deal right now. It's like the #1 job on LinkedIn for skills. It's like the #1 most sought after jobs with skills is people with blockchain experience. So I always tell people, like, don't limit yourself to just like what you have in front of you or what you've done. There's so much more that you can do, and you can always keep upskilling. You can always go back to projects and make them even better. Do courses if necessary, like I just said, basically upskilling. That's just my opinion, because the more you can upskill yourself as a developer, the more you can find different types of jobs, and the more you can get into like a different any kind of field that you want, like that suits you and who you are as an individual.
That's a tricky question, though, because if we're talking about resumes and you have gaps from, from the past,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, things happen, life happens, family, health issues, whatnot. So if it's that, just be very honest when you're, I'm trying to understand the question. That's why I'm giving multiple answers. But if you are in an interview and they question you, your gaps, just be honest. Just be honest. But keep in mind of what you're going to answer, because you might give the wrong answer to your client, to the interviewer, and you can lose your chance, because gaps, we see it, and hiring employers see it as somebody not being stable. And I think you guys can agree with me on that, because if you're jumping from one job to another and you're not being consistent, or every 6 months you take a 3-month break, like, okay, what's going on there? Do I really want this person to be working with me? So that's one way to answer that question. Another one is also, like you even said it in your question in the chat. You can do freelance. You can partner up with other people in the industry. You can do tutorials. You can work on a business for yourself. yeah, so many things that you can do. So I don't know if I answered your question.
I think it depends on the situation. For example, I agree with Lina. It's not the same that right now I have a gap, right? Because well, with the pandemic, I can actually lose my job, whatever, and then I can use this time because it's right now. I can use it to learn something, to improve my skills, to have some new certifications, and then it's different when it happened in the past because there are so many reasons. There is one reason, which is, well, I lost my job, I changed jobs, and then that's what Lina says. But sometimes you think, well, this is not a stable person because it's changing their job every 6 months, and then between them it's like 2 months gap, and then it's the wrong impression for them. And then it's, for example, something bad happened or something like incredible happened. Like, for example, I moved, right? I was in Venezuela and then I moved to Chile. And between them, within that gap, I have like 2-3 months I haven't been working. So that's different because there's a situation that actually wasn't able to like control. This is not under your control. So you can actually have an answer for that. But my advice is that if you have to fill that gap and you have to give an answer, because for sure there's going to be a question about that, is that use that answer to prove what you learned in that time. I mean, if you move from another country and say, well, it was an experience, I have to move out and I have to learn how to live in another country, to culture, and it was good for me. But it's not about the bad things, it's about the good things I actually be able to learn in that situation, because it's going to prove that you are a person that is going to be able to prove that you are going to be able to be better every single time. So it's really important to have a good answer for that question. But it depends, of course, if it's in the past the gap or is it right now the gap.
Amazing. Do you guys have any more questions? I think, well, if we don't have any more questions, I think that's it. I would first like to thank all the speakers for taking their time and talking with us about the tips we can have to get a better resume. And also, if you guys want to keep in touch with us and know about our upcoming events, please follow us on social media at for Geeks Academy and our meetup channel. You will have all the info you need there. And if you guys don't have any other questions or tips you want to talk about, that's it for today. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much.
To have you here.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
it
you.
Was a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
I also share Tuesdays on my Instagram account at Infinity Personnel. It's called Tip Tuesday, and I always like to share tips recruiting or like for candidates in general.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. If you guys want, we have another event August 31st, which is the Bootstrap 101. We'll be talking, one of our 4 Geeks instructors will be giving fundamentals about Bootstrap, so it will be interesting. Thank you all for coming once again, and have a good day.